And to kick us off, I'm absolutely delighted to introduce our council member, Tressa Burke. One of Glasgow Disability Alliance's founder members, Tressa has been Chief Exec since 2006, steering it from its fledgling vision of supporting disabled people's voices and tackling social isolation in 2001 to a multi-award-winning community of 4,000 plus people and organisations today. Tressa has held senior leadership roles in third and public sector organisations, developing people-led programmes which build on disabled people's strengths and capacity to participate and contribute to their own lives, communities and wider society. She has expertise and incredible insight into equalities issues, particularly disability equality, as well as the cumulative impact of multiple discrimination, e.g. disabled women, disabled LGBTQI people, disabled black older people, etc. A disabled person herself, Tressa has increased participative and representative democracy for disabled people in Glasgow and Scotland through her tireless work. And through GDA, Tressa acts as a strategic partner and advisor to both Glasgow City Council and to Scottish Government. She is currently a dedicated board member of Inclusion Scotland, the national voice of disabled people. She is also an incredibly powerful member of our council, so I am thrilled to welcome Tressa to the stage.
Thank you so much, Louise. I absolutely don't know if I'm going to be able to live up to that introduction. I'm delighted to be here today and share some of my reflections based on my experiences over the last 18 years with Glasgow Disability Alliance, where I'm one of the co-founder members, as Louise was saying, before becoming CEO 12 years ago when we got our first funding. Our organisation was started by some remarkable disabled women, most of whom are still with us now. There's one in this room, I believe, and others we remember and acknowledge for their outstanding contributions to disabled people's equality, independent living and human rights. In particular, Maureen McPeak, who was a role model to myself personally, and she sadly died a couple of years ago, aged 68. I met Maureen as a much younger, at the time, disabled, very working class woman who'd grown up in relative poverty myself, and I'd been diagnosed with MS in 1994, which was a total coincidence. I was working in a disability rights project. I immediately began to draw parallels with disabled women and their oppression, understanding that much about disability was actually socially constructed. But as at that time a now disabled woman who was also lesbian, I didn't feel that I quite fitted in with the disabled people's movement or with the LGB movement at that time, as it was called. Both seemed to lack inclusiveness or acceptance in relation to wider diversity issues. And I remember going back and studying social work 20 years ago and reading up on black and LGBTQ perspectives in social work practice, and I was blown away by the liberation of understanding that came from arguments that challenged the dominant current thinking and ideologies within social work, but within society as well. They challenged some of the feminist movement's position on these things, black perspectives in social work, black perspectives in feminism, as well as LGBT as well and disability. It was extremely powerful and instructive to my own experience of not belonging, and it shaped how I have developed the organisation and how we, together with my board and fantastic team, have continued to develop it over all these years to make it as inclusive as we can for disabled people. Now, I've been asked today to talk about attitudes and culture change, which is clearly massive, and if we could crack that nut, we wouldn't all be sitting here. Still bearing and dealing with the impact of patriarchy, misogyny and all the other isms that we face, and that create ever-deepening wounds on our identities, on our life chances and on the outcomes that we have. My particular focus today and in my role, my job, is disabled women and their experiences, which are of course and diverse as disabled women themselves. So before saying any more, I'm going to show a couple of films actually, which were made for a GDA project called Future Visions, and these capture some of the realities of disabled women's lives and experiences and some of the things they face. And the reason I want to show them is because we firmly believe that the voices of disabled women should be at the heart and the centre and at the front of leading the changes in their lives, but also part of the movement of women trying to drive forward changes to attitude and culture. So I'm going to ask if I can have these films now.
Writing songs is when I feel most free. The only time I don't feel anxious is when I'm singing. Anxiety would rule my life. Music was my only escape. I would write songs in my bedroom, but I'd put them in the drawer. It got to the point I couldn't even sing in my own bedroom for fear of someone hearing me. I couldn't leave the house. I didn't have experience to know what to say or do if something went wrong. I thought everything was going to be the end of the world. My mum told me about Future Visions. It took 2 years to persuade me. I tried to get help before, but nothing had worked. Other places would talk about my past, but Future Visions asked about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. Kate, the life coach, talked to me over the phone. Over the week, she encouraged me step by step to make my way outside. Even just getting out to the front door took weeks. Natalie, my PA, helped build my confidence to get out. She'd come to the front door and we'd go out together to record shops or to a gig, things I wanted to do if I was more independent. Gradually, she'd meet me further and further from my house, until finally I was meeting her at the train station. Now I can travel independently. I'm on the train every day now, going to music college, something I couldn't even dream of before Future Visions. I use the time to write ideas down for new songs. I want to be a teacher. I'm running songwriting workshops at GDA. Now I can use my music as a career rather than just an escape. I can get the old songs out of the drawer and share them with people.
Me and my husband Danny had to move from where we lived in Mount Florida, Florida Avenue, which was a lovely street and we knew all our neighbours. And having to move because it's steps up to it was really bad for me, but we just had to do it. It was hard at first having carers around, not knowing the people that were caring for me, but over time I did get used to that. Danny works as a taxi driver and he was out a lot and I was on my own a lot. So I used to walk Mitzi, my little dog, just to get out and meet people. Danny found GDA by chance from a cab fair. One of the PAs that worked there, Louise. And it was through GDA that I wasn't sitting alone anymore. I was back on different courses, different workshops that led to Future Visions. Life coaching and the PA was great, but it wasn't just the staff that helped. We all supported each other and we all became really good friends. Danny's seen a big difference in me since GDA. I'm much more confident and I'll phone people and complain about things if I'm not happy. And he opens the door at night if I'm away to GDA and he'll say, "All right, Margot, dinner's ready, how was work today?" And which is really nice, you know. I've always enjoyed working with children. I really missed that when I had to stop work. There are a few families on my street. There's a girl who's got real depression, and then a family at the end of the street with 2 severely disabled children. And I've already chapped both doors. I would just love to help them. and just give out a bit of me. GAA has just changed my life completely, made me more confident and made me able to get out to other people and feel I'm doing something for the community, especially in Rowan Street.
They highlight a number of barriers, and one of the films is about Caitlin, a young woman who has extreme social anxiety and long-term mental health impairment. And I won't say about the film, but it's about her moving forward with the support that she got from other disabled people and from GDA. And the other one's about Margot, who's experienced illness and impairment through MS. All very different types of barriers that these women experience, but there's so many common barriers, and we share a common identity too. I happen to know these women and their conditions, but it's interesting, probably people will be surprised by this, that GDA never asked people their conditions at all. We only ask people what their access needs are. And in the case of Margot, she has MS, but that doesn't really tell you anything. Knowing the name of the condition doesn't mean anything, doesn't tell you about her support needs or the barriers that she faces. I think that's just a really interesting fact. What Margot really needs is social care and support to participate and have her personal needs met. She needs support to be able to socialise and make the contributions that she wants to make and that she's capable of making. Similarly with Caitlin as well. So at GDA, we spend time building women's confidence and bringing them together with other disabled women. We also go further by creating safe spaces to explore identity for disabled people, and we look at other kind of intersectional issues as well. So we've got a disabled people's network around black and minority ethnic, and we've also got an LGBT network. We run various programmes for disabled women around confidence building, sexual health, self-defence and issues affecting survivors. And we explore identity and barrier and raise consciousness amongst disabled women and disabled people. Over the last year, we've run focus groups and dialogue sessions with women members of our active network, which is called the Drivers for Change Network. And there's about 150 disabled people amongst our members. There's 4,500 members. And that number goes up and down, and different people come in and out of the network, and they act together to speak on behalf of other disabled people, and a lot of capacity building and briefings and training goes into that network so that they can properly understand and analyse and help come up with solutions. So some of the issues that the Drivers for Change network have come up with, and disabled women in particular, there's the usual barriers that people face. Like, I don't know if people have heard the news over the last few days, there's a massive crisis in social care in Scotland, and there was a guy in Highlands who lost his care package, or it was cut. So that's something that disabled people need. We need a national programme of funded social care to top up people with high support needs. People face inaccessible transport, lack of access to the built environment, hostile attitudes, welfare reform, so poverty and disadvantage. Those are the usual barriers that all disabled people face. But on top of that, disabled women, like all disabled people, face access problems. So major access, not being able to participate in your own life because you don't actually have the control or the choice to decide when you get out of bed because you're waiting on a support package coming in at a time that suits them and not you. You don't decide what you want to wear. Some disabled people don't get to decide who they live with. So choices are very much undermined, and disabled women are starting very far back compared with other people. Specifically, disabled women's voices need to be heard, and they need access and support to build confidence and to participate. The wider trend of men being more confident is further compounded for disabled women, who are even less likely to speak out than disabled men, and lived experience is key to building solutions, so we do need to hear from them. Disabled women need to be visible and see ourselves represented. I would say that most women here don't see bodies like theirs represented in the media. We see illusions of, how we should all look in a perfect world. But this is even more so for disabled women. And representations are polarised, from the kind of superhuman Paralympian model of triumph over adversity to the scrounger, poor soul, you're not working hard enough to go over your disability, as though disability is something inherent, pathological, that we own. People don't understand that it's actually about the barriers that we face. Representations in the media are sadly lacking and in general perpetuate these extremes, pathologising disabled women and making them the problem. And what disabled women need is to see positive role models like themselves in all their diversity. They also face situations of violence and abuse, and they're 3 times more likely than other women to experience violence, including sexual violence, also hate crime and online crime. Disabled women often live with increased risks due to, say for example, their care arrangements and being dependent on people coming in and providing intimate personal care. So accessible supports must be provided for disabled women to be able to get out of these situations, and that's a major issue. Disabled women need equal access to education, as all women do. Lack of expectations and support through school is compounded by gender for disabled women. So not only are they expected to achieve and are not given the support to achieve because they're disabled, they're also not expected to achieve or given the support to achieve because they're girls or women. So it's a double whammy for disabled women. Disabled women aren't visible or taking up their rightful roles in employment, and they should be more visible in workplaces, in public, in the media and everyday life. More disabled women should be employed in the public sector, and I think it's down to employers to create the culture where disabled women are able to disclose, rather than, there should be under pressure to disclose so that we can just be counted. It should be safe for disabled women to disclose their impairment, and they should know the benefits of disclosure and how they're going to be supported. Disabled women also need to be recognised as sexual beings capable of having relationships, including children and families. In particular, sexual health services need to be more accessible and cater to disabled women's needs. I was just hearing very recently about a member, and this isn't an isolated thing, just so happens that I heard about it recently, who was refused a routine smear test in her GP surgery because they refused to hire a hoist. And when pressed, they said that it was down to the fact that cost was the problem, because not only did they need to hire the hoist, they needed 2 people to operate the hoist because of health and safety. So she has to go to hospital to have a routine examination test. There's no teaching in special schools, or there's very limited teaching about sex education, and issues around consent, rape, sexual assault, the assumption that all disabled people are either asexual or heterosexual but celibate. And that's absolutely the case. Support for disabled mums, particularly from health and social care staff, as well as education, is needed so that disabled families and disabled mums can thrive with their families. All of the issues affecting disabled people are compounded for disabled women, and it becomes exponential in impact when overlaid with other barriers. So if you're disabled and older or disabled, also LGBT, disabled and black, and so on. It's critical to say that these are not just the whims of disabled people in small numbers, or of JDA, which has got over 4,500 disabled members. These findings are actually supported by the United Nations, which reported grave and systematic violations of human rights on examining the UK in the last couple of years and the devolved administrations. In fact, late last year, the UN went on to describe the situation facing disabled people as a human catastrophe, and that was to do with all the different barriers that they face. Scotland alone in that examination was praised for involving disabled people in producing its new social security system, as well as the Fairer Scotland for Disabled Action Plan. And I've thought a lot about that and why that was successful. And it's because disabled people, including disabled women in large numbers, felt that they were being listened to, and that Scotland had made specific efforts and put specific resources in place to enable a dialogue and build a shared understanding. And this, I believe, is at the heart of what's needed to change attitudes and culture. That willingness to build a shared understanding and plan actions, which you then take to improve lives. And of course, leadership was demonstrated here too. So to change attitudes and culture, I believe that the voices of disabled women must be heard as part of this movement, and we must be visible. Disabled women want to influence decisions and services at all levels, and that means safe spaces to build confidence and voices, remembering the very, very low starting point that many disabled women are at, and voices so that we can take part in decisions in our local communities and in mainstream services. People just don't want to influence decisions. Disabled women, like all women, want to be decision makers as well. Every year, GDA works with thousands of members and hundreds of disabled women to speak up on behalf of themselves and all the other disabled people who can't. But without access and support, disabled people and disabled women who experience greater barriers would fall at the first hurdle. So they need transport, they need support, they need accessible information. For example, we've got a group of people that came across today from Glasgow, so we had to make sure that provision was made and provide transport to get people to our office, and then an accessible minibus, and then we hired personal assistants and they'll be supported here all day, but those things would not happen. They wouldn't be here without that support, and I think that's a really important point. There is no amount of apathy, no laziness, they're not hard to reach, they're not disengaged. Much more truly disabled women and disabled people more widely are easy to ignore when the right support is not present. For attitudes and culture to change, we need to both build the confidence and voices of disabled women, but we also need programmes of education and awareness raising and capacity building for key agencies and services so that we can create the right conditions for them to better understand and to take action around disability and also broader equalities issues. The very same barriers that cause our inequality, inaccessible transport, poverty, unmet support needs and negative attitudes, these are the same barriers that prevent us from being involved, and this situation is further compounded by that overlaid multiple discrimination that we face if we also have other protective characteristics. Disabled women are disproportionately reliant on services and supports, so planning, design and delivery of services need to involve disabled women, and at the same time we need to enable deliberation, building equality, understanding and human rights and diversity as well. And ideally, creating a test and learn culture from leadership to delivery, which cultivates the confidence to listen, to do things differently, to take risks and learn from mistakes as well as successes. If we do all of that, we're more likely to involve disabled women and to change culture at the same time. I really do believe that at the heart of culture change is understanding, but also believing the experiences, the lived experiences and realities of disabled women, building these voices, supporting them, listening to them, even when it's hard to reconcile difficult issues being heard with budget challenges. Ultimately, after 25 years in this field, working alongside and listening to thousands of disabled women, it's my firm belief that change is down to building people. Building disabled women to have more powerful voices and greater visibility across society, and simultaneously building understanding of those holding power so that they're more willing and able to shift that power and drive forward changes. I also think that keeping it simple is important. People sometimes want to do something, but they can't do everything, and they just want you to tell them what it is you want them to do. So while we might be striving for strategic and structural change and high-level actions and high-level plans, we should also forge ahead with more modest actions which support women in smaller ways, because those things can also be life-changing. We shouldn't get caught up that if it can't be a high-level structural programme, not bother doing it. We should just do it anyway. That's really, really important, and a message disabled women have asked me to give you today. If we do all of that, women can be supported to contribute their strengths and talents and all our amazing diversity towards the challenge that we're all facing together. Thank you.
A huge thanks to Tressa. I actually hope that made you that powerful combination of angry and committed to being part of something that changes that. Because I think there was incredible messages both in what you were saying, Tressa, but also in those films, not least of which change happens in your street, which is an amazing thing, but also, as Margot shows, never underestimate the power of a conversation in a taxi cab. You know that bit, and the taxi driver goes, "So what'd you do then, hen?" It's usually got a hen on it, hasn't it? Never underestimate, there's your opportunity. Start connecting people. Wonderful, thank you so much for that. I think another round of applause for Tressa for bearing with that as well. Thank you. And also on that, a huge extra welcome for all of those from GDA and other organisations who have come through today. We're absolutely delighted that you're all here. Now, a running theme as part of our work this year has been the vital role of the arts in shaping culture and attitudes. Previously, we've explored the role of theatre, we've had performance poetry, video, and today the hope was that we were going to explore music with a performance from the young black Scottish musician Beldina Odenyo Onassis, who performs as Heir of the Cursed. Now, Beldina describes herself, get ready for this, a call bearer born of an apparition, a primordial memory, and a penny drop. She makes songs influenced by the strange nuances of life, rooted in grief, Scottish weather, the constant and the inconstant. The inconstant today, I'm afraid, is that sadly Beldina took unwell on the way here to join us this morning, so she can't be with us, which I'm really sorry about, and I know you'll join with me in sending her all of our best wishes. But I would urge all of you to seek out her music, do a bit of digging, go and see her live if you get the chance. As I say, she performs as Heir of the Cursed, and she's actually due to play at the Glad Cafe in Glasgow this coming Saturday evening, so please do check her out. Her work is incredibly powerful, and we hope perhaps that we can have Beldina with us at a future meeting. So because of that, our comfort break is going to be slightly earlier, and we're going to be then going into our discussions. The tea and coffee is in the gallery upstairs, and when we return, we'll go into those discussions. But before I do, I've been asked to make a wee bit of a public service announcement. The Women's Fund for Scotland, Shona, where are you? Where's Shona's? There you go, Shona's waving, green cardigan, everyone that's Shona. Through the tampon tax, the Women's Fund for Scotland has a grant fund of £260,000 to give out to women's projects across Scotland, opening on the 17th of September. £10,000 available in grants. So if you would like to know more about that, then Shona is the person to see upstairs at coffee. Okay. And could I also ask all the facilitators who are helping going to facilitate our discussion just to come down to table 2, and we'll give you your briefing during coffee. But for everyone else, upstairs for coffee, and we'll be back at 11 a.m, please. Okay, thank you.